Hello, hello. Welcome to Leap Taken. Hi, here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. Hopefully, everyone's having a beautiful Saturday and all is well and life is good. It is for me. It's actually very well for me. Thank you very much. I am going to stop my notifications down so I do not hurt my ears. And hello again, Dylan. Hi. All right, so this is my witchy review. So this is going to be fun, at least fun for me, because I'm going to be talking about some of the books that I think were game changers. I did a video about this, but I kind of want to have like a live chat. I talk about a lot of books here, right? So I kind of wanted to, I don't know, I have this idea, and I'm going to have a more books, new books next live. But for this, I kind of wanted to go a little bit more in depth about this. Now, whether or not you choose to purchase these books, that's on you. But I'm just going to tell you how they helped me. Hi, Savannah. So let's get into it. So the first book, I'm jumping right in, Jambalaya. A lot of people know about this book. This is in the cover. I understand there's been an updated edition where the author has like a note in the front. It's funny because I wanted to put the links into the description. So I happened to take a peek at the reviews on Amazon about this book, and it's most of them are love this book. This is a great book. This helped me. Um, However, a lot of people was like, it just sounded like she was just talking about her personal experience, and that's it. Yeah, it's a marvelous blend of memoir, folk wisdom, and Afro American beliefs. That's what's on the back. So it is first person account. That's the whole point of the book. Like, I don't understand how people don't get that. This book was instrumental, and I'm gonna have some other ones, but like this was instrumental. I think this was the first review I did, the first review I did on this channel, and I think I'm pretty sure I still got that video up, is of this book. So I found that this was super helpful in different ways for me. One, it kind of introduced me to ritual. It introduced me to altar setup that wasn't so rigid like I saw like in Scott Cunningham's books for solid, and I'm going to get to that as well. But this also gave me like Yamaye. Okay, so she talks about her here and in a way that was accessible to me. That's the best way to introduce me to these deities, these African derived deities, like ancestor reverence, like the whole section on that. That was super helpful. And just understanding more about hoodoo and African traditional religions, and, just walking with her and how spirituality doesn't have to look like other people's spirituality. We'll just say that. We got some comments here. Oh, you've been feeling depressed, Dylan, for the past few days. Oh, um, but this will make you, yes, this will make you happier. There's been a shift. Most people that I come across internet and otherwise have been feeling a shift in energy. For me, it went in the opposite direction. It's been, for me, more positive. Actually, neutral would be the best way. And you heard of this? Yeah. Thank you. Anyway, for this, I thank you. I love this too. Anyway, but this book was a big game changer because it got me to open my mind up differently. Just talking about like, to me, this wasn't accessible. I didn't know anyone who practiced or talked so much outside of like on the internet. But sometimes people on the internet or the ones that I was coming across, honestly, it just seemed like they were just making it overly complicated. And for me, just following her journey, the author's Louisa Tish, following her, it just didn't seem that difficult. And it seemed approachable and like natural and normal. Um, to just like have altars set up in the way she practiced ancestor reverence. There might be stuff in here that doesn't apply to you, and that's okay. But for the rest, I don't know. I think it was a positive experience on my life, on my spirituality reading this book. I'm just looking back at it now, like there were things in here that were so helpful. Um, to me, it's not like a book of like spells or something like that. is, she writes it, it's her personal accounts, her personal experience, the author, but there's a lot to be learned from this book. So this was a big deal to me in my witchcraft life. So we'll always love this book. We'll always appreciate this book. So that's one down. So on that, on to the next. So I'm going to go kind of almost in when they came out order. This book, Magical Mediumship. I talk, and later when I talk a little bit more about death, this book may come back up. But this book was also helpful. I had been on a journey for a while in accepting death, my personal death. The concept of dying and death was very difficult for me. I was afraid of it. I didn't like to talk about it, which makes it impossible to plan for things, to express your wishes. Once you have children, once you have children, you think, hopefully you start thinking about this kind of stuff. But as you get older, it's inevitable, right? Um, if you get to live a long life, but just death was a scary concept. I struggle. If people who knew me always, they were aware of that. Like I struggle with it. However, reading this book helped tie up a lot of loose ends. By the time I read this book, I was much better, but this book, I'm nowhere near even when I first start where I was when I first started reading this book. That's how big of a deal the book was to me. Now, the book is about mediumship, and it's not something I do. However, the way she writes and the things, I think if you're not a medium or identify as a medium, you can get value out of this book when dealing with the concept of death. Like there's a whole section, death comes for us all. Sounds ominous and scary, but confronting mortality, confronting mortality, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. Oh my God. But I can't remember if they're novels, if there's a witch. Oh, me? I know you're writing. Yeah, novel and witchcraft books. Yes, both. Oh yeah, four kids. Oh yeah, four. Oh okay. Savannah says she has four kids. Yes, you have to plan. You know that you got to plan. You got to think. And as they get older, I mean, before when they were little, you're thinking who's going to take care of them. And once they're older, mine are adults. I I'm at the point where it's like I've got to tell them what I want. Um, you we got to accept it, and that can feel freeing, in my opinion. Kind of just learning to accept it after a while, um, and to talk about the transition to spirit, like everything, advanced directive and decision making, death cafes. This book is something if you're struggling even a little bit, read this. It's not overly woo woo. It is woo woo, but to me, it's not that woo woo. Like you could read this and kind of feel a little practical minded about it. Like, okay, well, just the right amount of spirituality to I don't know, ease it in a little bit. That's the best way I can explain it. Anyway, yeah, this was a big deal too. Oh, yeah. You should read that book. That's a very good book. The next one, I have talked about this book a lot. I love this book so much. I found the author um, and made sure I start following her on Instagram. And she's actually commented on a few of my Instagram posts. I love this woman and what she wrote with this book. It's a thick size book, too. Um, this book was a serious game changer. Okay, so I used to have a blog. Well, I think it still exists. I just don't write there anymore. Um, for Leap Taken. Leap Taken started off as a blog. So I used to write a lot. There are kind of different topics, but a lot about just being more intuitive, following your intuition, trusting your higher self, learning to rely on your instincts. It was new agey over there, not so much witchcraft, but this tied it all in for me. This did it. You love woo woo. I mean, come on. Of course, I love my woo woo. Um, but this book was a game changer. Um, the way she was talking, part of it was just confirming what I was already saying on my blog. Like some of the words were so familiar. It's part of things how I thought, and then also, maybe things I wrote about in general. But like she put it in a way and spread out the details a little bit more, where it was like super helpful. Um, I don't know. This book, I don't know. It just was, and I reread, not the whole book from like front to back, but I did read over certain sections again because I don't know, it felt right. It felt like just kind of getting that additional information. This was a big game changer. I recommend this to people all the time. And it's a lot going on in this book. So it's not just like, it's a little bit of everything. She was very thorough when she wrote this book out. Um, and listen, like a simple way to increase the energy of your magic is to do two or three magical acts instead of just one. And my older videos, I used to say spells on spells on spells. So when I saw that, I was like, exactly, that's what I'm saying. So when magical practices are mixed together, it raises energy on an exponential level. That's what I believe too. So anyway, part of it was like, yeah, I believe that. I did learn new things from this. So this was definitely a must-have. Very important book in my world. Savannah says, "Oh, I'm writing these titles down for sure. Love books and need some new material." These are my favorites. These are my favorites. These are the ones that had an impact. You read books and you're like, that was interesting, but these I was able to put things into practice. It influenced how I practice. I'm getting to where I think my entire spiritual system changed. These two books, I talked about these before, but I'm going to start with this one. This is an oldie, Energy Essentials for Witches and Spellcasters. So let's get into this one. Spells on spells on spells, yeah. So this one is a small little book, but packed full of just information, the way my mind kind of thinks. So she basically is teaching you how to write out a spell. Energy Essentials for Witches and Spellcasters. That's basically spell work. She is teaching you the framework for spell work, and she breaks it down section by section, starting high level. We come up like there's an example spell. How can we improve this? And she explains to you how you can improve it. And also taking a spell someone gave you and how you can modify that, and the structure, and then understanding what you do with that and how how you actually carry out the spell. This one is good. Then she talks, like, gives you help with like working with energy, creating energy, um, energy shields, and then it gets a little bit more, intense, a little bit more not intense, and a little bit more advanced, like rewriting a money spell. And there's a section on how to do that. This was like very forward thinking. Like, you ever want somebody to break something down like this for you? Like this, to this degree, explaining, like a month. It was a big deal. So the original version, it said a money spell. Let's talk about it. So items needed: three green candles. Steps: charge the three candles as you light them. Say, green is money burn. Bring me what I need. Funds to ease my way. So mote it be. She breaks it down on this spell, saying using three, which I would say, using three candles is a bit of overkill. I would change it to one. Why do you need three? You're not, just go with one. And she says that if I wanted three different things, then I might use three candles. But each one needs to fulfill a specific need. So just having a bunch of the green candles for the one purpose is not really necessary. You could just put all the energy into the one. That's where I kind of learned a little bit more about that. People kind of say things like this, but to read it and it's broken out like that helped me so much. Um, and then the steps where she talks about, here you're told to charge the candles, but it doesn't say how or with what intent. You're left to guess. Think about all the spell books that you buy. You'll see they don't give a lot of details. And for the seasoned practitioner, you might already know how to do that. But you're right, you wouldn't know. It's just these steps, and that's it. Just tell you, yeah, charge it. What does that mean to charge it? So there's that. And what's your intention as you're charging it? So let's say you know how to charge. What's your intention? So you have this spell, but you need to think about that sort of stuff. And then she goes on, just asking, she said the intent isn't specific enough. So that little rhyme I said, asking for money without specifying a dollar amount or a particular need is too vague. You could end up finding a penny on the floor. Now, a lot of people disagree about that. the how much money, and you shouldn't ask, you should leave it open. I don't say so. So for instance, let's say I want to say I want an income of $10,000 a month. So I want to manifest at least $10,000 a month income, something like that, right? And I'm doing a money spell because I need my income to be $10,000 a month, that sort of thing. And you start there, you get your one Greek candle. I would modify. I got what she's saying. My point is, this made me think like this, the way that I do, reading this book. Man, this is a good one. It's small, but it's effective. I hate when books give a list of items to use in a spell and doesn't say why. I don't use herbs that much in spells, so I need info on it. Exactly, like why am I using this? Don't just tell me to do it. Give me an explanation, like what are we going for? Um, I agree. I agree with that. Now this one. I bought these at the same time. So and that was the best thing I ever did. I did not have a reason to buy either one of these books. I hadn't seen anybody's review on it. I was looking for, I don't even remember what my search was. This was years ago. And these books came up, and that's how I know my spirit guides, the universe, were all working to my greater good, because a huge shift in my spiritual practice was because of this book. This book teaches you how to build a tradition, a witchcraft tradition, a spirituality tradition for yourself. How to build rituals, also spell work, just like deconstructing all of those concepts. And along with that, it gives that information, but it also even talks about how to build your own complete system of magic. So, like, it gives you a framework on how to do that, like a style, a theme, a magical mission or ultimate purpose, the body of magic, spells, charms, etc., the type of rituals. Like, you can build your own practice out. So, let's say there's no title that fits you. You don't want to say eclectic. Maybe it doesn't, vibe with really what you're doing, because you're technically not eclectic, but you're not willing to say I'm a forest witch or I'm a sea witch or whatever. This book can help you make it make sense for you, your lifestyle, who you are, and how you practice. It may look similar to, let's say, a traditional witch, but maybe not. But you don't want to kind of invest in calling yourself like that or aligning with typical things that is a traditional witch. I think this book is perfect for that. So when you write a book, you're going to include that. Oh, yeah, right? The lack of info makes me feel like the info is shallow, like I can't connect to the item. Yes, because I don't know what it's used for, when I know it adds depth and understanding. The cover, if you go on Amazon right now, the link that I have in the description, it doesn't have the same cover, but it's the same book. As long as you see the author, it's Melanie Marquise. But anyway, I've highlighted this book. I used to use this almost like a Bible. Used to, I still do. Not, I haven't pulled it out this year. That's a lie. I did pull out this year, at least once this year. um, but now that I pulled it out, I got to go back and look at it again. This has been fun for me too. Um, like, she has a section on spell regression. So what is it? Magical energy associated with a recently cast spell is recoded, reverting the spell back to an earlier stage and aborting the magical process. This is what I mean about the technicalities of things, getting down to the nitty gritty. This book helped me to think like that. A lot of people speak very, and especially on YouTube, I like to speak for mostly high level. Getting into the nitty gritty and things like that, to me, that's where, honestly, those are the services that I offer. Because if you're telling me you're casting spells and you're having trouble with that and they're not working, a lot of the not one practice of myself going through that. But this book was super helpful in me understanding those concepts and what's going on. Sometimes it's as simple as how you're speaking about things. So, prime example, let's use the $10,000 a month example, right? If you're trying to bring an income of $10,000 a month and you've done the spell, and you felt good about it, you put your energy into it, you did it out of a place of joy, you felt really positive, you really believe it's going to happen. But when you're talking to people and you're making comments like, if it's not one thing, it's another. Am I right? Like you joke like that, or yeah, I wish I had money like that. When you hear about somebody doing something, just like things that are in contrast to the energy that you're putting out there, that sort of thing. And with every time that you do that, you're kind of regressing your spell work. So, and then she talks about what causes it and how to avoid it. There's more detail to that, but like that's the kind of detail that we get. Did you use the blue highlighter because the book is blue? I've been one. Oh, I have a bunch. No, that was yellow on this page because I use yellow. I use different color highlighters because I have them. I don't even have like a color coding system, not for highlighting things. Sometimes blue, sometimes yellow. I did a lot of highlights in this book because it resonated with me so much. I learned so much, and they even have a section on psychic development, which honestly, like I said, these three, if you were looking, these are my top three. These are my top three. Just to put it in perspective, those are my top three because I think they overlap in a positive way. Um, in a way that could be super helpful, and kind of like if one gives you just enough, like that small one here for spell work, this one I think goes into a lot more detail, but it's using the same concepts, if that makes sense. So this one was a game changer. It helped me to understand about building a tradition, building better rituals, building, not just copying, and and understanding the key points and all that sort of stuff. But they go into all other like better magical goal setting. Um, there's a lot to this book. Yeah, it's a whole section on magical mistakes and how to avoid them. So, like I said, this book is like, I don't know, design your own magical workout. They go into frequency and all that sort of stuff. I treasure this book. This is, if I had a Bible, so to speak, this is one of the books in the Bible, my Bible. So another game changer was this. Y'all know I love me some paper crafting. I love designing my grimoires and my book of shadows and magical journals. This book was helpful in giving me a framework. I had already had a book of shadows, two different books already before I've even read this book and completed. But this one, when I was starting another one. I got this one first and I wanted to read through. And this one I think is super helpful if you need help with understanding exactly what you want to put in there. Maybe you don't want to put the moon phases and color correspondences. Maybe you're past that point. You don't need your book to reflect that information, although they talk about that in here. It gives you ideas for other things as well to put into it. And there's a couple different spells and rituals in here as well. But um, I mean, you can technically copy a lot of things right out of this book and write it down for yourself. However, I think this book gave me a lot more details and kind of had me thinking a little bit more about what I wanted to put in my grimoire. I'm reading Channeling a Book of Qualities, and I've been utilizing blue planner dots to mark fantastic things to include my book review, book wisdom notebook. There you go. There you go. Color, yes, I like that. The color blue, I like that. And then I don't know, the whole section for me, one of the things that stood out, like magical concoctions is the name of the section. And they're talking about like love potions to make and prosperity oils and ritual baths and body scrubs and all that sort of stuff. So like putting all that sort of detail in your grimoire. So this was beneficial in a way of how I do a lot of my setup. It was a great guide. It kind of got things juices flowing for me for my own grimoire. So this is a good to have. I like this book, and I like the way the book is hardback. I don't know, I like the book. So there's that, and then this one is a newer book as well. Bewitching the Elements. This one is probably one of the best books I've read, where they're talking about elemental magic, connecting with each individual element in a way that's practical, straightforward, approachable than almost any other book I've read. This one makes the most sense to me. This is a nice to have book as well. Um, I don't know. I've enjoyed, and it gives like, okay, so we're talking about the element. Like for me right now, The water element is something I'm connected to. Am I around water? No, but she talks about how to connect with that element if you don't live near a river or you don't have a pool in your backyard or the ocean, a few steps away. You can still connect with the water element. You know what I mean? So she gives you examples, like approachable examples, even down to just drinking water and how to go about doing that. And more detail, of course, about the water element. But it is much more woo woo, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And I think that it makes you think about your practice. She gives journal questions and things like that as well, if you're into that, which hopefully you have a grimoire to write all that stuff down. But this was super helpful and grasping the concepts of elemental magic a little bit more for me. I was aware, I've practiced, I've done things, I think I've even talked about it, but when I read this, it I don't know, it gave me insight differently. And I think the author is really cool. I don't know if y'all can see her picture. Yeah. And I think she's like super cool. But yeah, this was huge. Huge. And just kind of getting with the elemental stuff. I have not read Psychic Witch yet. It's on my list. It is. It's seriously on my list. I just haven't gotten to it yet. And I don't really know why. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Here's another one as I have a bookmark here. Let me see what the bookmark was for. Oh, I just stuck it in here. I have several bookmarks in here because I was looking at this page. But I need African Goddess Initiation. Sacred rituals for self-love, prosperity, and joy. So the whole book basically each section, well, there's parts and then the chapters or sections gives you a different African goddess. Sometimes they're not necessarily goddesses. Well, she calls them goddesses, but um, they are maybe elevated. If that makes sense to God, she elevates them to like a goddess. They could be have been actual humans, living, breathing humans walking around, and they passed on, and she since refers to them as a goddess. But each section, like, well, we'll start with Queen Nefertiti. Here we go. So each section gives you a message, this story behind that. So you're getting a little history lesson, a little mythology here, and that is super cool. I like that, by the way. And then she like goes further into like a specific topic and goes into detail about that, how to honor Queen Nefertiti. Each section gives this type of stuff, um, and then she'll give you like a ritual or some sort of like magical work to do um, after each one. So this is something you can follow and work through. I don't know how long it would take depending on how often you're doing, but like I could see you doing this over the course of a year, taking your time with each one. This is like it's an initiation. So anyway, this book, and I actually went. I don't have the oracle cards near me, but do I? No, I don't. Anyway, she makes an oracle card deck that I actually use. I use with as a reader, professional reader as well, because they're so powerful. The messages. This book definitely, I fell in love as I read this book. And by the way, she was. I mean, I still believe she's a YouTuber, but she is really a beautiful, awesome lady. This woman, I followed several of her videos. I follow her channel, but I used to watch several. I don't know if she's on as much anymore, but this book, I don't know. It just, I don't know. It warms my heart. When I read this, it made me so happy. The way she explained it was like history, and I love history. So, and then a ritual to go with it. My book review book wisdom notebook has become like a pseudo grimoire in a way. Would imagine it would. I Yeah, I can see that. Anyway, but this was awesome. So I'm going to talk about some honorable mentions that I honorable mentions, but I'll get into why they had an impact. So I'm going to start with the most recent. This book right here. This was actually for the book club. Um, really taken the membership. So yeah, Mythology for a Magical Life. When I read the book, when I got it, it looked interesting, but this book is very interesting and it takes mythical stories and things like that, breaks it down. Thank you. You love my hair? Thanks. I love it too. I like when it's a little bit of a wave to it. I like that too. It looks more fuller that way. I like that. um, but this book takes mythology myths, and the author doesn't just have you read it and have you draw. You can draw your own conclusions, but she will give kind of deconstruct them and how you apply this myth to your witchcraft and to your practice. Like this is really deep. And they're not always sweet. They're not like nice stories. Some of them are, they can be triggering if you've been assaulted or things like that. Like, but if you think about the mythologies and things like that, those stories are not nice. Those stories are not all old tales of, indigenous people. Sometimes those stories are terrifying if you really think about it, but she breaks it down on like how to apply the mythology, the bits and the pieces into actual magical practices. And she gives examples. Like this book is really different. Yeah. This is a very good book. This is an honorable mention. Another one, going most recent. This is an old one. I don't know if a lot of people even know about this book. I actually had an opportunity to chat with the author. I was in a Facebook group. This is years ago because this book is not even remotely new. This is a while ago. Let me see the copyright date so I can get it. 2013 is the copyright date, if that makes any sense. Um, you remember? Oh, you recommended the mythology book to me. Oh, thank you. I actually, I appreciate that. I have an ongoing wish list. Well, y'all know I'm a planner, but I have an ongoing like things, books that I know are coming out. Um, Once I see them, I'll create a wish list, or sometimes I actually write them down as well, so that I can have an idea of things that I'm going to pick from, with like fresh content and things like that. A content creator. So I kind of keep things. This was already in my wish list, but thank you, by the way. There you go. um, so this book, the author, like I said, I was in a Facebook group, and the person who ran the group was able to contact this author, and we performed some of the exercises that she gave us, which essentially would be writing something out and discussing the things that she talked about in this book. At the time, I actually enjoyed the book and I thought the author was brilliant. I read the comments recently today when I was posting the links, and I saw that people were saying very not nice things about the author. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't picked up this book since, for packing it to move here to Arizona from Florida. But yeah, the cover is pretty cool. I haven't picked up this book to read or look at it since that altercation with the author. So that was around 2013, 14 maybe. Um, so we get this. So we're in this Facebook group. So we do the practice. Everybody else, we're all pretty much having this same kind of reaction because we enjoyed the book. We like the author because we like what she wrote, right? So there's a lot of respect here. And she was like talking to us about the cons. I forgot what the question was. Like witchcraft. Man, I forgot what it was. I can't remember the question, but it's something in the book specifically. And she was like, describe that. And other people describe it. And my answer was pretty much, it was like we all wrote like dang near a paragraph apiece. Because that it was, a session. So when she reads mine, she never was critical on anyone else's. She's like, oh, you get it, you get it. I'm saying pretty much like what everyone else has said. There is a key difference between me and the other witches in the group. I'm gonna leave it to y'all to figure out what that difference was. She was very critical, so much though, so that if I remember, several people, at least one of the other participants, and I believe the actual group leader or whatever, was like, well, yeah, I mean, I think she's pretty much saying the same thing. Like they're kind of like, she was like mad critical of what I said. And then I felt like I had to explain myself. I was like, oh, first you're excited that someone is the author of a book that you enjoyed is actually communicating with you. But then when they're so unnecessarily critical, like, no, you don't understand at all. You're not getting the concept. I was like, how am I literally wrote the pretty much the same thing like the 10 other people, but I look different. I'll let you figure out why. So I hadn't picked up this book, but let me tell you why I'm mentioning this today, because I don't know this woman. Maybe I don't know what her issue is today. That was years ago. What I will say is when I when I homeschooled my children, whenever we would pick up a book to study, I needed they part of that process was to and we it's a whole system of homeschooling. Anyway, I'm about to go into a whole nerdy speak about that. But the point is, part of the process was understanding a couple things. Who wrote the book? Um, and doing a bit of a biography on them, short, but who is this person? And the time period that the book is written in, because it ties it in the information, what they're talking about. It gives you a better framework for when you're studying someone's book. So, even fiction or nonfiction. So, sometimes we need to do that as well. It's cool. I don't think about this every time I pick up a book, but yeah, what Savannah says she's going, got to catch the replay. Okay, thanks for watching. Comment later when you catch the replay. But yeah, she really influenced me going forward to giving a little bit more care a little bit more about who wrote the book. And this is why I mentioned this book today. So some of the, and then I'm sure if I was to read this today, I probably would feel very differently. I was in a different space in 2013, 14, probably. Not probably, I know I was, but yeah, she's a trip, and it just kind of refocused. So honorable mention. This did technically was a game changer. The author themselves is a big game changer in my spirituality. Now, I'm sure we all know about this one. What's this from? I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people probably know about this. This is where, for me, a big start was getting this book. I think this might have been one of the first witchcraft books I purchased. I think. I got it. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm pretty sure. Oh, I even got some old notes in here. But yeah. Yeah, 39th printing, 2006. So this is copyright 2006. So this makes a little bit more sense buying this book. But yeah, this was super helpful. I was Wiccan. I followed Wicca when I began. And I know Wicca has influenced where I'm at today, and I'm okay with that. But this is an honorable mention because you know what, you can find things wrong. You can there's things to point out. We'll just say that are maybe not awesome, but when I was coming from where I was coming from, I needed something, and this was perfect for me at the time. So I will forever be grateful for Scott Cunningham for that, and for this one, The Secret Craft of the Wise, Magical Herbalism. This is something I like to just keep around, just to kind of remind myself that like different herbs and things of that nature and their magical influences and all that sort of stuff, and or properties I meant. But yeah, and like all purpose anointing oils, like different variation of herbs and things like that. Like this is I have this. Just keep something or something like this if you don't want this copy. This copy. I think this is still the one that they actually still sell. But um man, this one, look, it's even starting to get a little yellow around the edges. This is an older book, but this is an oldie but goodie. Um, Still helpful. So those are my honorable mentions that have been beneficial in my path. Um, Next thing I want to talk about is manifesting journals. And I thought I pulled the journal down, but I didn't. But that's okay. You'll just have to take my word for it. So I was cleaning and I'm looking over where the my closet is that's behind this camera right now. But I was doing some organizing. I actually wrote it down in my planner, and I actually accomplished it. Now I have two more closets to go, but I got one down, and that's here in my office, and I've made it much neater. put all my planners and journals that the old ones, because I don't throw them out. I recycle some things, but I haven't thrown them out, I should say. So I do have my original happy planner. That was exciting to find when I was cleaning. But I also found my um, manifesting journal, scripting journal. So it was a happy planner. For all this time, I was searching for this thing, and I've talked about this in different videos. I was looking around my house for this. I've only lived here since 2019, so it's weird to me that I couldn't find it. And I was like, did I throw? I knew I didn't throw it out. So finally, after all this time, I found it, and nothing is by coincidence because there were some events and some readings that I gave myself that it aligned up perfectly that I found it. When I tell you, I literally described the very place. I talk about this before, but when I found this journal, I wrote down the color of my cabinets and the granite. I talked about my bedroom. I talked about the style, and the fact that it looks like that right now is crazy because remember, I could not find this book. I was writing in it up until we moved here, like faithfully writing. Um, and then I put it up. When I put it up, I got confused which notebook, I got a lot, which notebook it was and everything else. So I just put it up on the shelf with all the other planners and journals and all that. So I kept thinking it was something else, and I'm thumbing through the pages like, am I losing my mind? And it was there, and I read it that day, which is actually this week. And oh my gosh, you even talk about emotions just coming over me. I was so happy because two things, and I did a gratitude. Part of my full moon ritual was just expressing gratitude for this. Finding that like a day before, I was like during the full moon period, like a day before. Oh my gosh, I was so filled with gratitude because I really did manifest it. Like this is a, and I'm still in awe. I will never just be like, of course I did. That's what I do. I mean, yes, but also it's exciting. It's a whole structure, and I saw this in my mind's eye, just parts and pieces, and I talked about how I felt, how I felt. That's what I scripted. How I felt. I woke up. And I'll tell you. I said I woke up I said, I woke up, it's a beautiful morning. The sun is bright. My room gets early morning sun. And I talked about how the sun comes in and, I feel very grateful and I'm at peace. And I talked about that. And I talked about when I look around my bedroom in the sunlight and I describe certain things. And I use the word romantic. And my bedroom is very romantically styled in my mind, anyway, my version. So that's what it looks like to me. And I had this vision coming into this year of what I wanted. And bit by bit, I started carrying it out with, different details and things like that on what I considered romantic, because I'm the one doing the interior design. So yeah, I did this bedroom, and yeah, and it's here I am now, having that experience, which is why I wanted to talk about manifesting journals or scripting notebook or magical notebook, where you write the things down and the intention is those things manifest into reality. Write in the present tense, feel the feels. Sometimes I remember when I was writing back when I got emotional. So I can look at the dates. I was like June, and we moved in here in August. So in June, I was writing, and I didn't just write about just living here. I was writing about wanting peace in my life. I was writing about um, how I felt about relationships and what I wanted to bring to my life. I wrote about income and things like that. And those things, I feel like not all of those things have completely been realized, but I can see that I'm on that path because I'm different than where I was then. Um, wow. Anyway, it's just really amazing sometimes the power of scripting. I'm just say that if you didn't believe it, I mean, you just believe me. If you so far so good. But this is something I manifested, this where I'm at now, like the level of peace that I have. Someone actually said to me, you seem like lighter, your spirit seems lighter over time. And I do feel lighter. And doesn't mean, and I say this, and I've been telling people this over the last few weeks, it doesn't mean I'm not annoyed that at things, life, the world doesn't upset me. Doesn't mean I don't get upset. Because I've had people make me upset and they did get checked. That's still there. It's not the fake spiritual thing that people are saying, the light and love, always positive. No. Sometimes I feel the range of emotions that I have. They come out, good or bad. However, my resting foundational space, my aura, is high vibrational, um, and neutral. My frequency is overall neutral. I'm prepared to feel the highs and maybe even the lows, but I know I'm okay. I feel very balanced, if that makes any sense right now. So writing those things down, went back then and seeing where I'm at today, um, was one of the best gifts I got in a very long time. And this is from the universe. And all I could express was gratitude. And I'm still very much kind of beaming from that place of gratitude about that. So if you haven't written anything down, maybe start. um, and now, on this happy note, we're going to have a fun chat about death. So I only want to talk about this for a couple reasons. I saw something and it was a joke. Um, someone posted someone's stand up, and the guy is talking about, there's somebody who wants to tell vegans they're going to die too. So sometimes we have this thing, I think, that some of us like a lot of, not all vegans, because I was vegan at one point. I'm not right now, but sometimes we get into the thing where we're, oh, do this. So, I feel healthy, healthy, healthy. I want to live a long life and all that sort of stuff. And sometimes the way they're talking, it almost sounds as if they know how to beat death. Like if you really listen to sometimes a lot, like basically all these people in the health guru space, right? They kind of sell you like it's not being said, but it is technically being said, like on immortality. It kind of feels like, they're immortal. The way they talk about, juicing and supplements and herbs and teas and all that natural medicine and all that, like you're never going to die. And that's what it sounds like. Um, I'm going somewhere with this. So, in the spiritual realm, in witchcraft, even though we'll talk about ancestor reverence and things like that, and it's okay to admit, well, the grief is a whole other topic. I won't even go there. Um, what I will say is that I think that people sometimes, or witches, sometimes present, like when you talk about protection magic and when we're talking about um, being blessed with from the universe or gifted from the universe, or for those of us who work with maybe specific gods and goddesses, you feel like they're protecting you. And sometimes the way it's being presented is if nothing like death could come into your realm, whether it's obviously your own or someone you know. Now, if you talk to people like that, of course, they'll be like, what are you talking about? I know that. I know that. I know that. But it's like, that's not what you're selling, though. That's not how you're presenting it. You're presenting the way you practice as if you're also immortal, as if you're protected somehow from that. And again, this is not something that's spoken out loud, but it's in the nuance of the conversations or maybe whatever they're selling. It's almost this idea that nothing goes wrong. That's why when I was talking before about being in a space of feeling very high vibrational, I've been on my own personal healing journey. Um, and an elder said to me some months ago, because you're in this space of healing, it's very easy for you to notice in others where they are and what's going on with them in a way that you're more intuitive. We'll just say that I'm more intuitive right now. And she's like, that's to be expected. And she's my elder. And I appreciate that message was right on time. I needed to hear that message. Um, because I was talking about some people I love and care about and some real issues that I'm seeing. However, when you are going through something and people know that you're healing, which you're not, sometimes is they're not really interested in you telling them about themselves because that's how they see it, like you're criticizing, but they're in trouble and it's someone you love, someone you care about, you know what I mean? So they're not very receptive to that because they think you're maybe just, or at least they'll make you feel that because a lot of it's just being defensive. um, you know what I mean? That you're coming after them, you're attacking their lifestyle, you're attacking, whatever their coping mechanism is, when in reality, because I am so open to my own energy and to kind of analyzing, not over analyzing. It's not like that. It's not self deprecating and critical. It's more like, hmm, I feel this. Let's explore why I feel this way. That kind of stuff. And finding patterns and things like that on where I can tie to. That's part of my healing journey. Healing is deep for me. I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, it's sitting in it for a bit, whatever the it is, it's sitting in it, it's allowing it to make me uncomfortable, and then taking it layer by layer on why I feel uncomfortable, what's happening. And then eventually, with over a process, I kind of start feeling lighter and shed a bit more. The process of healing is not pretty. Most of us still have to function. And for somebody like me, and most people who call themselves spiritual counselors or leaders or things like that, I run a coven. I have my presence over at the Discord channel for a safe place for witches. I offer services. Within just my personal life, people come to me for things as well. Um, I need to kind of be on top of the game, so to speak. I have to kind of keep a certain layer, but I'll pull back, and I felt guilty. I don't feel guilty now. I would pull back on certain things. Even here with YouTube, I slowed certain things down because I was going, there's different phases during healing. You feel different things. Um, yeah, so I had to do all of that. But anyway, back to my point because I'm about to go on an extra tangent. I do think it's the topic of death to me is hand in hand with spirituality and as a witch because so much power, magic can be found in all things under the death umbrella, whether you're working with animal bones. Think about it. Feathers. Maybe that bird didn't willingly give that feather. Maybe something tragic happened and you have access to a bunch of feathers. Uh, or maybe you hunted that animal. And there's spiritual reverence to that as well. Fishing, that sort of thing. You can do things with fish bones and uh, the parts once things have decayed, which involves death. Um, for humans, a lock of this deceased hair that you've kept for years. Um, there's magic to be worked with at the ashes of the deceased. There are things to be worked with that as well. So don't run from it. And then working with yourself, that's an opportunity for you to create the ceremony, your going out ceremony, your ritual, death ritual, um, is a way for you to, there's a way for you to make it your own, especially if you believe in spirituality the way you say you do. And if you are comfortable with the idea of ancestors or on some high level understanding, if you kind of agree that those that came before us never die. Maybe you don't deal with your specific ancestors, but you're okay with that thought, right? If you're okay with that thought, you should be okay at some point, hopefully, with the fact that you will join them. You become part of them, the collective. Um, so maybe, that's your first step in understanding and making it not so scary. But yeah, if you come to terms with this stuff, you can plan your ceremony. So, your mother, who is a Bible thumper, is not having you in a Baptist church somewhere, and everybody's saying, some real Christian stuff over your dead body, your corpse. And you're like, looking down, your spirit, what are these people doing? Um, is a chance for you to take control of that, maybe. But you can't do that if you're not willing to face the fact that you too will die. We all will. None of us are getting out of this alive. I know. I know. We're all gonna end up the same way we were born and then we'll die. It's the cycle. I talk about living by the wheel of the year. I respect natural cycles. Death is part of that cycle. I don't love that I don't get to have the same experience in this body in this lifetime. Or yeah, if you believe in reincarnation, yeah, it won't be me, the exact DNA, the same structure. It won't be me. It would be nice, right, to know that you can come back as yourself and maybe do things a little differently that next go around. But that it's not going to be the case. That's just not quite how it works out. So get comfortable with death, guys. Get comfortable with it. It's a big part of witchcraft. I've been feeling pressure to create videos lately. Oh, pressure like a good thing or pressure like a bad thing? And what the elder said makes so much sense. Yes, it does. I believe, yes. And that was a timely message for me. I'm so grateful for her. And on that note, this wonderful elder I spoke with, I know she's not into witchcraft as a practitioner at all. I don't know to what end, but I'm thinking not very much. However, she would definitely identify as a Christian. I'm pretty sure of that. And when I think of the challenges I've had to, you said a bad thing. Oh, don't feel bad. Listen, take it as you come. When it feels right to post videos, it'll make sense. I stayed on the fence for quite some time because I just didn't know if I was confident enough to get on. But you guys seem to like my tangent ways that I talk and talk with my hands and just kind of going in and out of topics. So thanks, because that's me. But I think there's room for everybody on social media and making videos. You're always somebody else's cup of tea, even if these people don't get it. There's a whole other group over here who like you fit in perfectly with. So that's how I see things here on YouTube. So I just look for the people who like me. My therapist says something along the lines, I need to keep to my commitments. Oh, well, that's different. Well, you know what? Just do one video a week. Start small. Just do one video, plan it out, plan like at least a calendar's worth, like a month worth, and just like put a topic and just go from there. Don't pressure yourself, just that one thing. Thank you for loving my tangents. um, but yeah, the fear that I had to get over to do YouTube, but I talk about all these books because especially when I was at this point, when I'm at the Wicked Scott Cunningham point, that version of me coming into this was grappling with fear a lot. Um, as curious as I was as I read these books, and I was like, trying to internalize and see where I fit and how it would look for me to be a practitioner. Um, I had a lot of fear associated from Christianity. And I know a lot of witches come from that because, it's the United States and Christianity is the number one religion. Now, I know a lot of people are leaving, walking away from the religion. They say millennials in general, and then those coming after them, not as many. But then you have people who, here's the thing about that, because we have a lot of witches in our community who walked away. They were part of it, but layer by layer, they started not connecting. And everybody has their story. But we'll just say over time, over a period of time, things weren't adding up, or it just didn't make sense for them anymore. They knew that wasn't their calling to be a Christian. That wasn't their space to be in. They didn't feel comfortable in that space. We'll just say that much. Um, the thing about it is during that process when people are discovering that or even right afterwards, you're almost afraid to say I'm no longer a Christian. to another Christian. Like, you wouldn't actually say that out loud. In your heart, you know it. You know deep down, this is not me. But when you're going through it, I think it's very difficult to say that out loud to another person, especially somebody identifying themselves as a Christian, to actually say that. So I like to call those just in case Christians. They don't want, one, they don't want to offend anybody around them, so they'll just say they are. And then there's still this belief based on, the indoctrination and fear that they've been taught, most of us since we were small children, that, you know, those things might come true. If you teach someone from a toddler stage, it's hard to divorce that. It's part of who the fabric of who you are if you've been teaching a specific philosophy for that long. And people look at that as if that's a positive thing. Well, I guess, yeah, if you're into it, it's a positive thing. It was like, well, my children are, you know, solid Christians. They were raised that way, and that's the right way to go. And I'm like, okay, until you start finding out other things and well, history and facts and stuff. But anyway, it's very difficult to separate that, and it creates a lot of fear and shame and guilt when you try to move on to other things, the things you feel called to, like maybe witchcraft. And there's a lot of us, I'm past that point, but it took a long time. But there's a lot of witches I see. And the thing I notice is this thing where they cannot walk away from that Bible. No matter how much they learn, no matter how much there's direct writing, scripture in the Bible that specifically says negative things about witches. Like, don't spare a witch. To me, that means kill. I don't know what y'all think it means, but anyway, I don't remember the exact thing, but something like don't spare a witch or something along those lines. I'm not quoting scripture here, so whatever. Usually now I just say I'm not religious, but then people often mistakenly take that as me being atheist, which couldn't be further from the truth. For years, and thank you for saying that, because for many, many years, that's what people thought about me. People I knew, family, that I was an atheist, and I think I was okay with that. As long as you didn't think I was Christian, I was cool with that. But actually, I was getting more into this at the time. I was delving deeper into this. This is around that time when that was actually happening. Um, yeah, people do get that mixed up. But I tell you, like, the fear that's associated with all of that. And I think that there's so many witches now who, and I'm all right, I'm going to go in, I'm going to pick on my hoodoo practitioners. There is a whole argument about this, but this is my channel, my live, and I'm just telling you what I think. And I'm allowed to do that just like everybody else. All right? Just my, what do you call that? What is it, disclosure or warning? Huh? Preface? Oh, thank you. My daughter. So, all right, here's the thing. You can practice hoodoo without a Bible. Honor your ancestors who have moved, your ancestors. Now, I'm talking to most likely the African American community, because typically those are the ones practicing hoodoo. You can honor your ancestors by practicing hoodoo. You do not need a Bible. You don't need it. If you're using it, I'm not coming for you. It doesn't hurt me either way. But if you are someone who's trying to get into hoodoo and you've walked away from Christianity and you're grappling with the stuff that the fear, the shame, the guilt, and you don't want to keep dealing with that, I'm telling you, you don't have to use the Bible as a crutch. It's not necessary. You don't have to. You can practice folk magic, hoodoo. Um, First of all, it's not a religion, so you don't have to add any religion to it. There are counterproductive things about witchcraft in the Bible. Why, if it's written there and you believe in words, spells as a witch, that area is not completely, um, you can't ignore the part where they're talking negatively about witches no longer existing and being not being spared. You know, you can't avoid that part and just deal with this one. I mean, you can, but I think you're being hypocritical. And I think you're bringing that energy into your work. The reason our ancestors had to do that is because they were under duress and they made the best out of their situation. It was under duress. It was not something you need to keep up. To me, it's the same concept of walking around with a cross on your neck. This is how your savior was killed using that device, and you celebrate that, or that's a symbol to you that's to be honored, or because it represents him dying for your sins, and you think that means something. I think it's hella disrespectful. I really do. I think it's crazy. If my son was taken out and there was a specific weapon used, I would not love and cherish and use that as a symbol around my neck. I wouldn't use that. That is just, to me, bizarre. But millions of people believe this, I imagine, because they all do it. And I think a lot, again, that indoctrination. You're young and they're accepted and you believe it and it's part of it. And then you begin to develop your own ideas about it. And you're constantly influenced to stay in this lane. And so breaking from that is difficult. And the amount of fear that they might be right stays with us for a very long time. I was a full-blown adult. Kudos to these younger kids, like these teenagers, 15, 16, 17, on this journey, starting from way where I was here as an adult. Like, they are my heroes, and they are going against mom, grandmom, sometimes great grandmom, um, and all the aunties and uncles who are holy and sanctified, and they are standing. Nope, that's not my thing, and they're standing in their truth. Um, they are my heroes because they're very brave. They don't know everything yet. They don't have all the answers. They haven't connected every single dot. They've got their whole spiritual journey to get to that. But here they are, standing up for themselves. Even when I'm sure they still have that lingering fear of, wait, what if they're right? What if they are right? Disclaimer, that was it. I just saw the comment. Thank you. Disclaimer. That's what I was trying to think. I'm a woman of a certain age. Something comes and goes. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's disrespectful and bizarre. Yeah. I think the only reason I would use it with the ancestor work because it was such an important part of their lives, right, when they were here. But I have never had the attachment to it that other people have. And I do find that others, and if you listen closely, to sometimes for me, I do listen sometimes because there are people who come across my path and they have a message, but I don't necessarily believe in everything else they're talking about. But because I'm here for this part of the message, I'm respectful and I'm willing to hear what if there's some more jewels, interlaced with the stuff I don't vibe with. So I listen, I'm a respectful person. So I listen to what they have to say. And sometimes to me, I can hear that fear. I won't point it out because I am respectful, but it's all fear based. You're holding on to this, and then the way they want to use it, the way they talk about using it. Specifically, I noticed within Hoodoo, the type of work that they're doing, and I don't. This is not to be picking on Hoodoo. I'm just using this as an example because I realize there are people who just refer to themselves as Christian witches. And that's a whole other thing right there. And again, I question how do you align the things where Christianity has really been very firm against witches. And I know there are people who, to me, those are just people who are still on that forever bridge they're crossing and they just won't complete that journey across away from Christianity. And they're just extending that walk across the bridge. For me, I got stuck on said bridge for quite some time and kind of feeling very confused for a while because reading more about this felt natural. Um, Felt right. It took away a lot of the taboos and the guilt and the shame the deeper I started getting into Wicca. Remember, this was the lifeline that I needed to help me get across this proverbial bridge. Wicca was that for me. It was my first stop. So, and for some people, it's the first and last stop, and they're fine, and I respect that. But in order for me to get there, man, it was a journey of just shedding all that guilt around sexuality, around death. That was why I was so afraid of death. What I've been told as a Christian, geez, it's very absolute, heaven or hell. You talk to, uh, a real adult-like person today. I say that because I think there's ranges of adulthood, but you talk to like a real grown-up adult, they will look you in the eye and tell you that's just the way it is. Either you're gonna live or you're gonna die. I mean, you're gonna go to hell or you're gonna um, go to heaven, and they're like resolute, and I'm like, okay, well, but if you, and I remember being a kid, I used to always say, well, what if you don't know? What if you live someplace and no one ever told you about this? Are you going to hell? You know what I was told as a child? Well, ultimately, it's up to God, but yeah, possibly. That's why. That's why you have to go spread the word of the gospel, so that that doesn't happen. It's your duty to go save them. There you go. So if I didn't make it to this corner of the world where they didn't know, their souls just might be damned. Wonk, wonk. You shouldn't be fearful of a God to start worshiping. I can't do that. Yeah, the constant fear thing is one of the main things that turn me off. Listen to how people use that term, a God fearing woman or a God fearing man. Fearfully and wonderfully made. I was in a homeschool world, so I used to have to dodge the Christian stuff all the time. So, um, fearfully, that was the name of a textbook, a science textbook, fearfully and wonderfully made. Why is there so much fear? Why do you have to fear your God? That was the other thing of not being afraid of a deity, of spirit, and just being terrified all the time. To me, it's like y'all don't sense the control piece of this, where man clearly has, modified and written the scripture. And then my favorite thing, yeah, I'm about to go someplace else. For us, again, of African descent, um, majority African descent. I'm gonna say that because I know some people do are African descent. Um, One of the arguments I hear, and someone I love, respect, and care for says this, well, the original Bible, the first Bible is in Ethiopia. So all this nonsense about Africans, us being of African descent, that it's just being a European thing, Christianity, is just completely untrue because that's where the first Bible was. Pause. Are you Ethiopian? No, most of us, we wasn't taken from Ethiopia. Well, you want to know where you most likely were taken from? Your ancestors? Because we or them were all connected. It was not Ethiopia. What are you talking about that for? If that's the case, let's talk about what the Chinese did in ancient times. And why are you not talking about that? Hmm? Or I got a better one for you. Let's talk about Hinduism. Let's go into that. Oh, around that same time, would you like to talk about that? Because you can say, well, technically, and just keep referencing that. People will look, well, why do you keep talking about Hinduism and Chinese culture? What they got to do with what? What does the Bible being Ethiopia, have anything to do with you? You're not from Ethiopia. You don't have any lineage to that land, those people. You really don't. Africa is a continent. So most of us were taken from West Africa, right? So what are you going on about this Bible, first Bible in Ethiopia? You're not Ethiopian. So what, again, you to me, you might as well start talking about Indians and Hinduism. Same difference to me. That's what you sound like. It's not giving the argument you think it is. That's all I'm saying. I was a part of a chat in the Witchy community, and I said the Bible's a book of mythology. I agree, and a couple of people were uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. Wait, this is a Witchy community. People, that's telling. Yeah, you hate the God fearing thing too. Uh, yeah, it does seem abusive. Yeah, I know. I had a friend of mine when I first moved to Florida. Her church would go around and like part of, I think it was Saturday mornings, they would knock on people's door, kind of Jehovah Witness style. They come to you and start telling you about the good Lord, and then their church. And I think that's invasive. I think that's invasive. I don't like that. Hinduism is so interesting to me. I took a world religion course when I was in college, and it will stay with me forever. that was also part of my journey, spiritual journey, because it opened like, what is it? Is it Taoism? Is Taoism or is it Taoism? Tao. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And just understanding that, and we're learning about Hinduism, and and I was like, this. It blew my mind because up until that point, I'm not coming up in the age of Google, guys. Remember that. I don't have Google yet. I am very much Gen X. So I know it was like pre cell phone, pre internet, pre Google, and now I can't live without it. So I've walked in both worlds. But yeah, up until then, I just had this information. And I remember my teacher starting off, the professor saying, um, in order to really study this and get what you need out of this class, and to do the assignments, you're going to have to put your bias to the side as best as you can. If you're coming from your view of specifically, most likely Christianity, he said it, then you're going to miss a lot, and you're not going to get, because you're constantly comparing it and it's not the same. So why are you comparing it? Just look at, it's very difficult for people, again, indoctrinated from like birth practically, as an adult, and they just think that's considered strong faith when you've just been indoctrinated. The T in the TID pronounces D. So Taoism. Thank you. Taoism. I was gonna get there. I always joke, because I write, I can spell and I understand the meanings. But if you ask me to say the words, to pronounce the words, that's where I show my hand. That's my weakness. Oh, definitely. Taking my Asian studies classes was pushing me towards the witchy before I even realized it. It was definitely pushing me, definitely more. I always knew, though, on some level, I just didn't have the knowledge. I just didn't have it. But yeah, I think that that fear held me back. It was girl interrupted for me. Christianity to me was interrupting the me that I am, the me that I am. And I remember one of my, she's a YouTuber. She's been on YouTube for like 10 years or more. Some of her videos are from 10 years ago. This woman got to be Oshun. I love her. I listened to her podcast. She's a very like mine, and she's also a woman of a certain age, so I vibe with that. Um, and the way she talks and the way she talks about this actually kind of gets me going too, and the savior concept of savior and all that sort of stuff, which taps into your fear with religion, and for sure around religion, specifically. And I'm saying Christianity, but I mean the same is true for Islam and or Muslim, and the Jewish faith as well. To me, the Jews, they don't talk about Jesus as the savior, but that God thing, just think Old Testament, the Old Testament of the Bible. There you go, which is the rough, rugged, and raw version of their God. And that's the part I remember arguing with a family member, not art, well, it was kind of an argument, a disagreement. And she said, well, when the New Testament, I don't remember her exact words, but something about when the New Testament came, Christians put aside the Old Testament. It was no longer necessary. And that was pretty much the end of the story. That's how she described it to me. Abrahamic faiths. I like to call them the big three. Like, big three. um, but yeah, she told me that was the thing, and I was like, so why y'all even bother to put the book? But from my understanding, they have some publications where it's just the New Testament. I think, right? Isn't that a thing? I don't know. I don't know, because I don't read the Bible. I don't look at the Bible like that. I'm past the point of my life a long, long time ago where I would have been someone to look at this and say, okay, and maybe pull up this other book and say, and do like this weird comparison thing of like, I might have done that because I was kind of coming out of it. But I don't even know if I own it. I think, you know what? I know there's a Bible somewhere in here because my kids were gifted it by grandparents. So I know they exist somewhere in this household, somewhere in the building, but I don't know where. Um, but I did try. I tried as an adult, a young adult, with the Bible. I was one of those people, I went to church without an adult as a teenager. I went alone. Basically, I didn't went alone. I went with my friend, who was also another teenager. Um, yeah, so I was like, I wasn't just like, coming in like some badass, and I'm anti-Christian. No, I really was all in it. But the more you learn, going to college, interacting with different philosophies, understanding mythology outside of high school, which is we're gonna get into that, but like really understanding mythology and understanding parables and all that sort of stuff. It was like, well, wait a minute, hold on, we basing everything on this? It just didn't make sense anymore. I can't believe that some people still believe and go by the Old Testaments. That's a whole other thing. Okay, but they be lying about that because then some of them pick and choose when the right when the Old Testament does apply. That part gets me. That part gets me. Cherry picking. That part gets me a lot. Where it's like, no, wait a minute, y'all like to go back here to make a point about something else. I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm like, I'm gonna hold you to it. If you telling me that particular time, that God version, you got to go all in it. Even when him killing them infants, them firstborns. Talk about that and make it make sense, especially in this climate of abortion. Talk about that. But moving on. So yeah, the amount of effort, the amount of time and energy, and then the redoing over and over again to devoid myself, divorce my spirit and influence of Christianity was excruciating. I would never want to do that again. When I see someone else who is actively struggling with it, my heart goes out to them. I want to help you. I want to be your sounding board if you're going back and forth, because I remember what that was like, and it feels like you're in two worlds, and the guilt that goes with it is annoying. It's annoying and it's exhausting and it drains your energy. And it can also influence your magic and how you're practicing. Because over time, if there's always that little bit of doubt and fear that's slightly interlaced with it, if you believe in energy and, all those books I was talking about that require for you to sort of dissect spell work and rituals and your spirituality and really look at it and why are you doing this and questioning things, which you're not allowed to do in those other religions, and questioning things, there's so much guilt and shame and fear that you have to go through. And like I said, it's just suck on your energy. It's like an energy vampire. I don't like it. But I respect those who are going through that right now. Again, like I said, my heroes are those teenagers who are doing that right now. They are standing in the face of elders, and they're not budging, and they're going to do it. And a lot of them, they make content now. I told you how I felt about sometimes people who were like 18, 19. To me, I think it's awesome if you're talking about your journey and how you're learning and you're documenting that on social media and you're interacting with people and you're learning things and you're sharing at that time in your opinion. I think that's awesome. That's great. I think where for me the problem comes in when you tell me you're more advanced than what you are. And it's okay to still be learning. It's okay to document your path of learning. To me, make that the thing, not that you already are there. Ma'am, you're 18. Calm down. My religious aunt is one of the more progressive Christians. Thank the gods. I used to say that to one of my aunts. I don't think she liked that, but not so, but not so much so to push her beliefs on me. Oh, okay. Due to you being a witch, that's nice. I had that at one point, but it doesn't exist anymore with that particular person. I started a 00/101 series on my channel. I have got to look. I'm sorry, though. I've got to find your channel. I am so sorry that I haven't found that yet. Okay, can we talk about the YouTube algorithm and how it's not given what it used to give as far as witchy content? I know people I know that I love and care about create content here on YouTube, and I want to see it. But if I'm not actively going to the channel to look for it, it doesn't recommend it to me anymore. It's something different that's been happening, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I mean, some of us believe, and I talked about this before, that it's part of a bigger conspiracy to keep knowledge, like, think about talking about manifesting and all this sort of stuff and changing your mindset. And remember, those papers were leaked from the government that basically say law of attraction is real, that they studied it. And yeah, it's real. It's a real thing. So, do you maybe not want the people to think for themselves? The algorithm is now awful. It is. Oh, and it could be any topic, not even just witchcraft. Y'all know I'm big into paper crafting and planners and things like that. It just keeps recommending the same like 3 to 4 people. And then some random stuff that has nothing to do with my interest. Why are you recommending this to me? Um, I don't know. I am so exhausted with this algorithm. Um, I noticed just I can see with my videos, people I know, who enjoy my channel, who actually know me, said, "Hey, by the way, it does not recommend your channel for me." Like I am occasionally, but unless I find it, like I happen to be on the live and they catch it, they don't see my stuff, and I don't understand why. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what sick game the algorithm is playing. I don't like it. It is progressively getting worse. Oh, hey, the Princess Diaries. um, yeah, it is getting worse, and it's rather annoying because it directly. It cuts me off. I can talk about the channel. I can talk about it on other platforms and things like that. I have wrestled with the idea of TikTok, but TikTok is smaller, like at shorter periods. I don't know if I know how to do that to myself. Like, y'all know how I am. I get talking and I'm going back and forth about all these different topics. It's hard for me to censor myself to just a short period of time to say what I need to say. I would be making part one, it would be like 24 parts to a topic by the time I was done. And that just seems like a lot of work. So I don't know about that. YouTubers have to become slaves to the channel to stay in the algorithm. I think that's what it is. I mean, I post technically 3 videos a week and I do a live. So that's 4 things out of 7 days that I'm posting to YouTube. Um, but you're right, because if you take a little bit of a break, if you don't post for another day or two, it does something funny. I noticed that. I feel like I'm being punished and I can see that through my analytics because it's like, interesting. I'm thinking, oh, maybe people didn't realize I posted. No, I think this algorithm is punishing me for not posting as much. I do, yeah. Same 24 parts. Yeah, it's like a 24 part, and it's all on the same day within minutes. Just me talking because I don't know how to self edit. Yeah, so I don't know about me and TikTok. I don't know about that yet. And Instagram, Leave Taken's over on Instagram. And I post things there, but lives and things like that. I don't know, maybe I'm not monetized or anything. To me, Instagram is a place to link everything else. Not, I'm, I don't, I'm not, I don't know. I don't even know what the threshold is to get monetized on Instagram. Maybe I need to find out. It was never my end game with that. So I don't know. Witch talk is definitely something. It is. I'm glad I'm old enough to have started my journey back in the message board. Yes, yes. Sometimes I post 2 videos a week, and the second video sometimes a live. Um, you kind of have to post. When you said that, you kind of have to post often. If you watch the videos where they're talking about how do you become a success on YouTube, whatever that means. But basically, how do you get more people to see your stuff? You've got to post consistently and often. That's almost everybody says that. Um, Being a content creator is a lot of work, especially over time, because a lot of topics, depending on what you're doing, and take it out of the witchcraft thing. Like I watch like crafting, planner stuff. Well, people get sick of seeing the same planner, so they buy different planners and they do different things and different materials and things like that. But essentially, it's the same thing. Then I found out that in YouTube algorithm world, that because I post things about planners and I might do something else that at first glance doesn't appear witchcraft, um, that confuses things. They don't know where to put you. They don't know how to categorize your channel or your videos or something like that. So that can kind of you can shoot yourself in the foot. Like if you say you're talking about witchy stuff, you're talking about witchy stuff. But I will not let YouTube tell me I will still talk about planners because it's a big part of my practice. And there's the witchy component because I'm a witch and how I do things. So I will never stop doing those videos because those are really fun. I like to change things up with that, but for the most part, it's still very witchy to me. Um, I'm old enough to where crystals and witchcraft became popular like a year and a half after I started, which 10 years ago. There you go. Yeah, crystals. Crystals were still a thing. Um, to what end? Yeah, because I was going into metaphysical stores and buying crystals. I remember that was a thing. I remember the first time I bought a moonstone, and that was like a big deal for me. I remember that, and I had it, and I felt like the energy from it. It was so exciting. Where was I? I was living in, I think, North Carolina at the time. That was the first time I went to like a new age metaphysical store, and I did what they say: you walk around, you hold it in your hand, and see what you feel. I did the whole thing, and then I bought my first crystal. That was so exciting. The fact that I remembered my first crystal, wow. Sometimes I feel energetic enough to do a couple of videos, and I tell myself no, but I seriously need to take action at those times. Sometimes you really do. Sometimes it's just sitting down and doing it. For me, I can't contain myself. I have to plan. I change sometimes because things happen and I have to change what I'm going to talk about. But I plan at least 30 days worth of content out every 30 days. Like I'm always in advance because I might have to buy things. I might have to, if I'm trying to show you something, I might not have this specific thing that I'm about to talk about. So I've got to, go purchase it. Or I got to do something else with it, to make the point, something like that. So yeah, sometimes I have to, yeah, you got to plan it out. You're at the threshold of crystals and witchcraft became. You were almost at that threshold. Oh, okay. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, then we're probably. Well, no, that was more than 10 years ago. But anyway, I think I know what you mean, though. I get you. I do. But yeah, that just kind of recap all those books that I read, and some reread. The African Goddess Initiation. I'm gonna come back to again because I feel it's calling me. The Intuitive Witchcraft book, oh, will forever be like, I knew it. Like I had that moment reading that. Like I knew I was right. So that book always makes me feel really good. And that mythology book, my honorable mention, that's a newer book. That one's really good to pick up because it's like that author did something very unique. She lets you read, and it's not like real long and drawn out, but you read this mythological story, and then she talks about literally how to use that as your spiritual practice. Not just one thing, but like different ways to go about doing and spell work and things like that, using the lessons or some aspect from that story that you just read. So, really good stuff. You're excited to go through them. Tara was what officially kicked it for me. Back in 2011. Cool. Oh, what a wonderful time. uh, oh, you have maybe a month and a week planned in advance. Cool. It was spring 2012, and crystals in the witchcraft game popular in roughly summer autumn. It's so funny because what you're making me think about. I've lately been watching OG Charm, again, which kind of takes me back to the Wiccan days. I guess it's not. Charmed was very quiche with the demons and all that aspect, but like season one, I'm on season one, Charmed. Um, when we had Prue still on the scene, and how those first few episodes when they talked about other witches who were like they were Wiccan, and they specifically would talk about Wicca all the time on the show. That was the basis of the characters and the world building was Wicca, and that kind of warms my heart a little bit now that I watched that. Intuitive Witchcraft really is a great reference. Yeah, it truly is, right? It's a great reference book. Um, that one touched me. That one got me because it felt like, I don't know, I felt so aligned after reading that book on what I've kind of based, I don't know, myself on, my spirituality on. These are things that I held dear as my truths. These were truths. And then to read this and hear another person with detail explain your truths and then add in some more razzle dazzle because there was some new stuff I learned as well. That's why I loved it so much. And it gave me a great anchor point, a way for me to kind of connect all of that knowledge. So I will forever be grateful for that book coming across my path. I don't even know why I picked that book, by the way, when I got it, but I'm just so happy that I did. And then The Witch's Bag of Tricks, which with essential, and what is the other one called again? Essential Energy Essentials for Witches and Spellcasters. This small little book was so profound in spell work and getting successful spells, to get my spells to make sense. And when I would see, if I had a spell book, to look at it and condense that and make it my own. That's how I figured out how to do that. And also, I had to relinquish the idea of, am I doing it right? You know, is this the right way real witches do it? You know, once I got rid of those feelings. I like when Piper went to the church and thought that she would explode or something. Exactly those episodes. There's I'm watching one that's later in the season where this is one of the recent ones I watched, and they're like it's Friday the 13th, and the what is he, the Dream Weaver, or no, he's the Fear Weaver. I forgot what he's called, the demon, where he knows your fears, your deepest fear, and that's how he kills you. So if you're afraid of drowning, well, you're going to drown. You know, that sort of thing. I like the first three seasons. I thought as the series went on, they became too revealing. Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, that's. Ooh, I knew that was going to come out. That's like with all shows, it gets like that. So what are you going to do, right? Well, since my headset just came out, I think that's a cue for me to wrap this up. This has been a chattier, longer live, but I've enjoyed myself. Thank you all for interacting and coming here. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, these books, if you don't already have them, might be something, hopefully, I've explained in a way that it sounds interesting. You might want to look into it. Um, you know, let me know in the comments too if you actually like you read them and it makes sense to you, and you have the same feeling I have about a lot of this. I'd appreciate it. All right, so I'm gonna go get on with the rest of my Saturday. Your favorite episode was the Halloween one, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and get on with the rest of my Saturday. Again, thank you all. Don't forget to hit like, please. And if you haven't already joined the Leap Taken subscription here, the membership here for this channel, go ahead and maybe consider hitting that join button. Otherwise, all the links for everything is in the description. It is affiliate link. It's a couple cents here and there, but I appreciate it if you do choose to purchase. Go ahead and use that. It's all linked to Amazon, by the way. All right, so I'm out of here. Love the longer live and chat. Have a great day. Thank you. You too. You too. And to you all. Thanks again for watching. Bye bye.